A woman who lives with unshakable faith and conviction possesses a beauty that does not fade with time nor waver with circumstances. She becomes a presence, a steady, grounding force in a world that often feels chaotic, confused, and uncertain. This kind of woman doesn't chase trends or change her values to suit the crowd. She is not easily swayed by the opinions of others, nor is she tossed about by the storms of culture. She walks a narrow path with her eyes fixed forward, not in arrogance or pride, but in quiet confidence that comes from something far deeper than self-esteem. Her life is not driven by the need for approval or applause because she knows she already has the approval of the one who made her. Men notice this kind of woman, even if they don't fully understand why at first. There is something in the soul of a man that longs for steadiness. He may be surrounded by noise, distracted by ambition, or chasing things that promise fulfillment and leave him empty. But when he sees a woman who is anchored, who is not performing or pretending, but living in truth and with purpose, his heart responds. There is a yearning in every man to be with someone who brings him back to center, who reminds him, not always with words, but with her presence, that life has deeper meaning and that love is not just a feeling, but a foundation. This woman does not waver in her identity. She knows who she is because she knows who she is. She has learned that worth is not defined by beauty magazines or social media followers. Her value was spoken over her before she was born. She does not need to compete, compare, or conform, and that quiet assurance becomes her strength. When she enters a room, she does not demand attention, but she receives it, not because she tries to stand out, but because she is set apart. Conviction is not stubbornness, it is clarity. It is not harsh or unbending, but it is unwavering in what matters most. She does not play games or manipulate to get a man's attention. Her truth speaks for her. She knows what she believes about love, about commitment, about life, and she lives those beliefs, even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching. This authenticity becomes a beacon for a man who is tired of masks, who has seen too many hollow smiles and empty promises. And faith, real faith, adds a dimension to her that no surface-level attraction can imitate. It's not about quoting scriptures or attending services, though those may be part of her rhythm. It's about the way she carries peace in the middle of pressure. It's about how she responds to disappointment without bitterness, to blessing without pride. A man sees how she treats people who can't offer her anything in return. He watches how she gives when it's inconvenient, how she prays when things get hard, how she waits without panic, how she hopes without clinging. That kind of faith is rare and it is radiant. Such a woman calls something higher out of a man. He doesn't fall for her because she flatters him or gives him everything he wants. He falls because she calls him to be more than he is, not through lectures or demands, but through example. She walks in strength that doesn't boast and humility that doesn't shrink. Her faith shows him that real beauty is not what pleases the eye for a moment, but what strengthens the soul for a lifetime. And when a man sees this, when he feels it, that she is not moved by fear, not controlled by anxiety, not desperate for affection, he begins to fall, not quickly or lightly, but deeply. It's not her perfection that captivates him. It's her peace. It's not the flawless image. It's the fearless integrity. The way she says no to what is easy and yes to what is right. The way she holds to truth even when it costs her something. The way she shines not because she's trying to impress, but because her heart is lit from within. A woman like this cannot be manufactured. She is molded over time, through trials, through tears, through the refining fire of faith. And that journey gives her a presence that cannot be faked, a depth that cannot be denied. A man who encounters such a woman doesn't just admire her, he trusts her. And that trust becomes the soil where real love can grow. Not fleeting passion, not shallow infatuation, but something enduring, rooted and true. He may not know it right away. He may not even understand what's happening in his heart. But something in him begins to change. He sees in her the kind of strength he wants to lean on, the kind of character he wants to build a life with, the kind of spirit that draws him not just to her, but to something greater, something eternal, something sacred. Love does not require perfection. In fact, it cannot survive where perfection is demanded. A man does not fall deeply in love with the woman who never makes a mistake, who always says the right thing, or who never shows weakness. He falls for the woman who offers grace, the kind of grace that reaches into his soul and reminds him that he doesn't have to earn love to receive it. There is a beauty, a power in a woman who chooses to love with open hands, not clenched fists, who chooses to extend kindness when frustration might feel more justified, who sees the cracks in a man and does not turn away, but leans in with understanding in her eyes. Perfection is intimidating, but grace is inviting. Perfection builds walls, but grace builds bridges. When a woman leads with grace, she tells a man not with words, but with the way she lives, you are safe here, you can be human here, you can fall and get back up without fear of rejection, and something profound happens in a man's heart when he feels that kind of acceptance. The guards he's held up for years begin to come down. The masks he's worn for protection begin to crack. Because deep down, every man wants to be known, not for his achievements or his image, but for his true self. And he wants to be loved there, in that vulnerable place. Only grace can reach that far. This kind of woman doesn't ignore flaws. She's not blind to the faults and shortcomings of others, nor is she naive to the complexities of life and relationship. But she has learned that people are not projects to fix. They are souls to cherish, and she treats others, especially the man she loves, with that sacred awareness. When he falls short, she doesn't use his weakness as a weapon. She doesn't keep score or throw the past in his face. She covers him, not to excuse wrong, but to call out the best in him. She believes in restoration. She believes in mercy. And that belief becomes a refuge for him. A woman who offers grace is not weak, she is strong. Because grace is costly. It requires patience when emotions run high. It requires humility when pride wants to win the argument. It requires vision to see not just who a man is today, but who he could become with love, time, and truth. That kind of woman has depth. She has weathered disappointment and learned not to let bitterness take root. She has forgiven others, maybe many times, and in doing so, she has become free. That freedom makes her radiant. That inner strength makes her irresistible in a way that far surpasses surface beauty. A man falls deeply for the woman who lets him be real, who doesn't demand a performance, but welcomes authenticity. She doesn't expect him to have it all figured out. She knows that life is a journey and she walks with him in the process. When he messes up, she's honest but not harsh. When he's vulnerable, she doesn't mock or belittle, she listens. She makes room for the whole of who he is, the strong and the unsure, the confident and the confused. And in doing so, she gives him a rare gift, the freedom to be fully known and still fully loved. This kind of grace is rooted in something higher than human strength. It doesn't come from good intentions or from trying harder to be kind. It comes from having received grace first. A woman who knows how deeply she has been loved despite her own failures learns to extend that same love to others. Her heart is not puffed up with pride, nor does she look down on others from a place of moral superiority. She has been forgiven, and so she forgives. She has been shown mercy, and so she shows mercy. She understands that love is not earned, it is given. And she gives it freely, not foolishly, but faithfully. When a man sees this, when he encounters this kind of love, he cannot help but be moved. He may have seen relationships that felt transactional or conditional, where love was withheld as punishment, where every mistake was tallied and trust was hard to find. But with her, he finds something different. He finds a softness that doesn't make him weak, but makes him stronger. He finds a love that doesn't excuse him from growing, but encourages him to grow without fear. Her grace challenges him, not with pressure, but with peace. It invites him to rise, not because he's being shamed into it, but because he's being loved into it. The woman who leads with grace becomes unforgettable. She leaves a mark on a man's heart that time cannot erase. He remembers not just how she looked, but how she made him feel. Not just loved, but known. Not just accepted, but believed in. And when he thinks of love, real love, it is her face, her voice, her presence that comes to mind. Not because she was perfect, but because she wasn't trying to be. She was simply honest, kind, and rooted in grace. And in that grace, he found a home. A man may appear strong on the outside. He may carry himself with confidence, keep his shoulders squared, and speak with authority. But within him often lives a world of silent battles. He walks through life expected to be the provider, the protector, the decision maker. Yet behind his quiet stares and tired smiles, there may be fear, doubt, or wounds that have never fully healed. The world tells him to stay composed, to never show weakness, to always know what to do, and so he becomes a fortress, hiding the soft, vulnerable parts of his heart. But then he meets someone whose words don't tear him down or add pressure, but breathe life into him. A woman who learns to speak life into a man's spirit possesses a gift beyond measure. She understands that her words carry power, not just to flatter or impress, but to build, to heal, to revive. She doesn't use her voice to criticize or control, but to call out what is noble and strong within him. She sees not just the man in front of her, but the man he longs to be. And with the simplicity of a kind word, the honesty of encouragement, and the wisdom to know when to be silent, she becomes a source of hope and rest. It is not flattery that moves a man's heart. Compliments fade. Charm can be deceptive. But when a woman looks into the heart of a man, sees his fears, his potential, his failures, and still speaks to him with honor, something shifts inside him. She might say, "I believe in you," when he's doubting himself. Or she might say nothing at all, just sit beside him when the world has gone quiet and he feels alone. In those moments, her presence and her voice become more than support, they become healing. A man may have spent years hiding parts of himself. Maybe he's been told to man up, to ignore his feelings, to keep pushing no matter what. But then he hears her say something different. She tells him he doesn't have to have it all together to be worthy of love. She tells him that being vulnerable doesn't make him less of a man, and slowly his guard drops. Her words open doors inside him that have been locked for too long. She is not loud with her encouragement. She is steady. She notices the little things, the effort he makes when no one is watching, the way he carries burdens he doesn't speak of, the strength it takes for him to show up every day. And she doesn't wait for grand moments to speak life. She does it in the ordinary. When he's feeling unnoticed, she reminds him that she sees him. When he's afraid of failing, she reminds him of how far he's come. When he questions his worth, she reminds him of his value. This woman does not try to fix him, and she certainly doesn't try to make him into someone else. She accepts him as he is, while gently calling him higher. Her love doesn't smother, it inspires. Her words don't manipulate, they free. And her belief in him doesn't come from naivety, but from a deep understanding of who he is beneath the layers. She recognizes that within every man is the desire to be needed, to be strong, to be good. And when she speaks to that part of him, he rises to meet it. She doesn't nag or nitpick. She doesn't use sarcasm or passive aggression. She doesn't speak just to be heard. She speaks to connect, to uplift, to heal. She understands that a man's heart is shaped over time by the voices closest to it. If he hears only criticism, he will become defensive or distant. But if he hears encouragement, honest, respectful, faith-filled encouragement, he will flourish. Her voice becomes a melody in the back of his mind, reminding him who he is and whose he is. Even when he pushes her away, even when he retreats into silence, she doesn't retaliate with anger. She waits, she prays, she chooses her words carefully because she knows that her voice can either wound or awaken, and she chooses to awaken. To speak life where there is discouragement, to speak peace where there is chaos, to speak truth, not in judgment, but in love. Her strength lies not in overpowering him, but in empowering him. This kind of woman does not need to shout to be heard. Her words carry weight because they come from a place of quiet strength. And the man who receives them finds something rare, a safe place to land, a reason to hope, a reminder that he is more than his failures or fears. He begins to open up, to share, to lead, to grow, not because he was told to, but because he was spoken to in a way that stirred something holy within him. And in that stirring, love begins to deepen. There are moments in every man's life when the weight becomes too much. Moments when the vision he once had for his future seems clouded by failure, when his confidence is shaken, when circumstances press so hard that he begins to question everything. It may come in the form of financial loss, betrayal, disappointment, or simply the slow erosion of hope after years of carrying burdens no one else sees. In those times, the people who claim to love him when things were easy may disappear. Friends grow silent, respect fades, but one voice, one hand, one heart can remain. And when a woman stands by a man in the fire, she reaches a place in his soul that no surface connection ever could. Standing by him in the fire doesn't mean tolerating anything and everything. It doesn't mean abandoning wisdom or self-respect. It means choosing to love when it's hard. It means refusing to run when others would. It means recognizing that storms don't make a man unlovable. They simply reveal what was hidden, what needs healing, and what love was really meant for. The woman who stays does not enable weakness. She strengthens him in it. She doesn't excuse mistakes, but she walks with him through them, with grace and grit and unwavering loyalty. This woman understands that love is not proven in good times. When life is easy, affection flows freely, promises are made, dreams are shared. But when the fire comes, and it always comes, that is when the truth of love is tested. Does she stay when he has nothing to offer? Does she listen when he has no words left to speak? Does she pray for him when he doesn't know how to pray for himself? These are the questions that separate fleeting affection from lasting love. A man may not say it, but he notices. He sees who's still standing when the smoke surrounds him. He remembers the tone of her voice when he had no answers. He recalls how she looked at him, not with disappointment, but with quiet belief. And that memory stays with him long after the fire fades. It becomes a cornerstone of his love for her, a reason he trusts her with the most fragile parts of himself, because she didn't walk away. She didn't shame him. She didn't make his low point about her needs. She loved him through it. It is in the fire that intimacy is forged, not the shallow kind of intimacy that fades with time, but the kind that grows deeper with each test. A woman who chooses to stay, to pray, to support, to speak life, even when the future feels uncertain, becomes more than a partner. She becomes a lifeline. Her presence gives him something solid to hold on to when everything else feels like it's falling apart. Her loyalty isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention or praise, but it speaks volumes to his heart. This kind of woman is not blind to his flaws. She sees them clearly, but she also sees beyond them. She sees who he is underneath the struggle, the man who wants to get it right, the man who's carrying more than he can express, the man who just needs one person to believe in him when he can't believe in himself. And that vision allows her to stay when others walk away. That vision gives her the strength to love without conditions, to stand without wavering, and to wait without losing hope. When she chooses to stand by him in the fire, she doesn't lose herself. She finds a deeper part of herself. She taps into a strength she didn't know she had. She learns patience, endurance, compassion. She grows in faith, and in the process, she becomes even more of the woman he needs. Not just a companion, but a warrior beside him. A calm in his chaos, a light in his darkest hour. She reminds him that love is not based on performance, that failure is not final, and that brokenness is not the end of the story. Over time, this kind of loyalty begins to change the man, not instantly, not always visibly, but something in him begins to heal. He begins to trust again. He begins to lead again. He begins to love not from fear or pride, but from the deep place where he knows he's truly known and truly accepted. And every time he looks at her, every time he remembers the way she stood with him when she could have walked away, his love for her deepens, not because she was perfect, but because she was present. Not because she said all the right things, but because she refused to leave when things went wrong. Not because she had all the answers, but because she never stopped believing there was still a way forward.